Hey everyone, welcome back to the Balanced Business Coach. This is the third time that I am recording this podcast. I have probably spent a total of 4 or 5 hours maybe recording this podcast and doing editing. Today is Monday, March 4th, the day this podcast is supposed to be coming out. Things in life happen for us. And as much as I wanted to be really annoyed at the fact that I have to record this for a third time, to be honest with you, I have learned a lot of really valuable things through this process that is going to make my podcast more sustainable for me. It's also funny because I feel like something in the universe does not want me to put this out there. This is a topic that I feel very deeply in my core. And if you don't know my mission, my vision, my purpose for doing the work that I do at this point in time, I'll just give you kind of a brief rundown. My mission is to change the way we work one leader at a time. And the reason that is my mission is because I have seen countless leaders and employees suffering from burnout and unfulfillment within their lives. And I just can't watch it happen anymore without saying something and trying to do something about it. So, really, my purpose in life right now, the reason I decided to go full force into becoming a coach is because I didn't feel like the impact I was making in a corporation at a 9 to 5 job was big enough for what really needs to happen. So I'm trying to shift workplace culture. I'm trying to shift how leaders take care of themselves so that anyone that they come in contact with, anyone that they impact, they're being impacted by someone who is fulfilled. They're being impacted by someone who's showing up to work happy, and they're showing up in their personal lives happy. And all of that energy that leader has is trickling down into anyone else that they touch. I know I said that was going to be a brief overview, but that is really where I'm at with my vision, my mission, my purpose. So what I was getting to is I saw this post on LinkedIn. I reposted it, and all of a sudden, like, I'm getting so much engagement, just like crazy levels of engagement. And I was like, all right, well, this is interesting because if so many people feel this way, then why aren't we doing something about it? And so I decided I'm going to take this post and I'm going to turn it into a whole entire podcast episode. So that is really the purpose of why we're here today. So I'll share the image with you. And for those of you who are audio only, I will make sure that I read it off. But the image says, your manager has more impact on your mental health than your therapist or your doctor. Having a good boss can literally change your life. Facts. Like, I felt this in my soul, you guys. I felt it in my soul because I know what the opposite is. Like, I had a boss and bosses that impacted my health so negatively that the week before I left my 9 to 5, I was in the hospital for chest pains. I'm 30 years old. I have no business being in the hospital for chest pains. But I was so stressed out, and I'm relatively healthy. Like, I eat my greens, I go to the gym, I do yoga, I meditate, I do the things. So there's no reason why I should have been in the hospital. But there was this like intrusive chest pain for multiple days at a time. And I went in and they're like, nothing's wrong with you. You're just stressed. Like, okay, great. Can you tell my boss that? So we need to recognize the power that leaders have. And I just feel like this post in particular has really reassured me and confirmed for me that the purpose and the mission that I have in my coaching business right now and everything that I'm doing is felt by the masses. It's just mind-blowing to me that me reposting this one meme, or not meme, but tweet, was the thing that just popped off, and everybody is like, yep, I feel that. So I'm like, okay, perfect, love it, because we're all on the same page that something has to give on the side where it's the reverse, where the manager has more impact on your mental health, and having a bad boss can also literally change your life. So how do we get closer to the good boss? How do we develop better leaders so that they are having good impacts, positive impacts on employees' mental health and creating happy, balanced individuals, humans? Like, employees aren't robots. And some people really treat them like that, like they're not human beings. So after I saw this image and posted it, I saw this other image later that day that says every company saying, we'd like to promote mental health in the workplace. Employees then responding, how about you hire more people so we feel less pressured and increase our pay so that we can keep up with the spiraling cost of living so we're not so stressed out? And then every company responds, no, not like that. Try yoga. And this one really made me laugh because, number one, it again is that, like, it's funny because it's true thing, but also it's like that reassurance that people know there's something wrong. I love seeing posts like this because it allows us to collectively agree that there's an issue. And so I know that not a lot of people want to fight this battle. And I also know that there are other more damaging issues that need to be fought. And I fully support the people who want to fight those battles. It's just not the one that I'm meant to fight. I'm meant to fight this one. I'm meant to fight for the employees. I'm meant to fight for the leaders. I'm meant to fight for freedom from the workplace culture that is. So I have a very lovely agenda for us today. I'm going to pull up my notes now so that I can make sure that we stay on track. All right, so I want to start with burnout and going back to that image where the employees were like, how about we hire more people so we feel less pressured and increase our pay so that we're not spiraling, blah, blah, blah. And then the company was like, no, just try yoga. The problem with this is that I think there's a huge disconnect between employee wellness programs that companies are offering and the true root cause of burnout. So I had this like intuitive sense that all of these programs that were being offered weren't really helping, because for me personally, it didn't matter how much my boss was like, oh yeah, like go take time off with your family, or yeah, of course you can, go for a walk in the middle of your day to like relieve some stress. It didn't matter how supportive he was of that, and it didn't matter how much I actually did those things, because I'm an avid meditator, journaler, yoga-er, like I'm all that. But I had this like understanding that it wasn't my fault that I was still getting burnt out. And part of these programs is like telling the employee like, oh, you need to be doing more to alleviate the problems that we're causing you based on our systemic problems within the organization. And so I just realized like there's this whole underlying issue when it comes to leaders being good leaders and making sure that employees are able to be sustainable in their positions. So like if I put it in terms of parents, let's say parent one is the one who does all the cooking, the cleaning, taking care of the kids, buying the groceries, so on and so forth. And parent two comes to them and they're like, hey, I want to give you the day off. You've been, super busy. I know you're stressed. Like, go have a day to yourself. So parent one leaves the house, leaves all the dishes, leaves all the kids, leaves everything. And they go have a great day. They're totally relaxed. They're rejuvenated. They're excited to come home and see their family. They walk in the door. Dishes are still there. The house is a wreck. The kids are running wild. And it is chaos when they get back to that house. And they're like, why did I even leave? Like, what was the point of that? And so it didn't matter that parent one left to go relax. The issue at home still existed. And so in work terms, if you are telling your employees, go take a mental health day, go participate in this yoga class that we have, you're not helping them if the issue is coming from your organization, processes, procedures, systems. Let me read the definition of burnout because I think that might help connect the dots of why I think this disconnect between the cause of burnout and providing mental health resources is not going to fix it. According to the World Health Organization, burnout is an occupational phenomenon. So again, this is a work-related issue driven by chronic imbalance between job demands, for example, workload pressure, poor working environment, job resources, job autonomy, and supportive work relationships. It's characterized by extreme tiredness, reduced ability to regulate cognitive and emotional processes, and mental distancing. Burnout has been demonstrated to be correlated with anxiety, depression, and potential predictor of broader mental health challenges. So if we just look at this definition, it's driven by chronic imbalance between job demands and job resources. At what point are job demands and job resources the responsibility of the employee? What control does your employee have over job demands and job resources at your organization? They don't. So the cause of burnout is an organizational issue. It's a systems issue. The effects and symptoms of burnout are what your wellness programs are trying to combat. So you're literally spending money on wellness programs to fight an issue that you're causing. It's like giving someone free medication, but you're pumping them full of whatever's making them sick. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. These wellness and mental health programs that you offer to your employees should be for things that aren't work related. Otherwise, it's really not a benefit. It's just a Band-Aid to a wound that you're causing. Until we address the organizational systems, these burnout issues are not going anywhere. So a few things that don't contribute to burnout are not doing enough yoga or meditation or whatever wellness practice you have to offer or they are participating in. Those things can reduce stress levels. But again, that is like for daily life stressors. It shouldn't be to fight stressors that your organization is causing. If you have 60 hours of work to do and you only have a 40-hour work week, you cannot get more done just based on doing yoga. You cannot get more done by doing some breath work. If you have a workload that is legitimately taking you 60 hours to get through in a week, it's not fair to say, oh, well, just take this wellness resource. That's just rude. It's really funny. Let me go back for a second. I say it's funny because like the part of me that's saying it's just rude is like the real like, that is such a Tony thing to say, because sometimes I don't know how to like shake the ground with like a statement, you know? I don't always know how to say things that make you go, yeah, that was fucked up. But hopefully it made you laugh a little and also made you realize like it is rude. Like when you go to a restaurant and a waitress is rude to you, like it really upsets you. Like rude sounds like such a, I don't know, such a like small word, I guess. But when you are so inconsiderate to your employees that you would tell them they need to do more in order to overcome an issue that you're causing, it's just rude. You're stressing them the F out and it's rude. Stop it. Stop. It's so inconsiderate. Just because you want to save some dollars, okay, we'll get into the dollars here in a second. I'll show you. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so what actually contributes to burnout? Always having to be on call, unfair treatment, unreasonable workload, and then low autonomy. All of these are things that are 100% in control of the organization. So you can put systems and structures in place to make sure that people aren't constantly being contacted or on call. You can make sure people feel safe speaking up about, hey, this person keeps contacting me after hours. Can we do something about it? But if it's not an environment who puts boundaries up around that, it's going to be really hard for your employee to follow through on their own personal boundaries around that, because that's not the culture of the workplace. So unfair treatment, like I used to see this all the time at my job, and it was sad for me because I was the one who was treated well. And so I was watching all these other people get treated unfairly, and it hurt me. It stressed me out. So I knew they were stressed out because of the way they were being treated, but then I'm like bearing this heaviness of like watching this happen, and it's like, what am I supposed to, like, it was really hard. I tried to do things about it, but ultimately that's part of why I ended up leaving, because I just couldn't watch that happen anymore and be a part of it. Wasn't really a part of it, but like indirectly, you know what I mean? Unreasonable workload. Like, do you know all it takes is to sit down with your employee for an hour or two, take a half a day if you really want to, and just see what they do. Watch how they work, what they do, what their responsibilities are. Because I guarantee you, if you look at the workload truly for yourself, Not just hearing them say, like, I'm at capacity, I don't have any bandwidth. Go see for yourself. If they're lying, then hey, at least you have an opportunity to teach them a better way to do things. Or like, not if they're lying. If they are lying, then you have that conversation with them. But if they're not working as productively as possible, or if there are better ways for them to do things that they're doing, so it's taking them longer, that is an opportunity for you to step in as their leader and say, hey, you know what? When I was sitting with you, I saw that you did this, this, and this. Maybe you could do this better. But honestly, I think what you're going to find is that they're not BSing you. If they're at capacity, they're telling you that for a reason. So go sit with them, see what they're talking about, and then do something about it, because that workload is going to wear on your people. And it's going to cost you. If you lose good people, it's going to cost you. We'll get there. It's coming. And then low autonomy is like micromanaging, having to run something by people all the time, just not feeling like you can make decisions. That's just kind of like, meh, nobody wants to deal with that. Oh, this is another thing. When you have people in your organization who keep burning out or who just are burnt out, the people who are working those 60-hour work weeks or plus, literally, I have a client who works 80 hours a week. And it's so sad because I can see it wearing on her to the point where like nothing she does is done to the level of standard. That's the word. It's not to her normal standard. But the hours that she has to put in, like, do you really think that an employee is just going to sit there for 80 hours, especially a salaried employee who's not getting paid anything extra? You think they're really going to sit there for 60, 70, 80 hours a week because they don't have to? Just because they want to be there? And then turn around and tell you, like, I'm overwhelmed? No, they're not. They want to go live their life. And so when you have these like A players, key employees, leaders or employees alike, who are constantly putting in these crazy hours, do you know what that's doing to them? It is killing their creative and innovative insides. It is just like shriveling them up. And it's like, do you not see that you putting them in a situation where they have to work all those hours is not actually going to save you money because their productivity levels are so low, their engagement levels are so low, their ability to do what you hired them to do, which is probably, if they're in a leadership position, like they're probably very innovative, creative, like they probably have a lot of amazing leadership qualities, even just to lead their team and be like that positive influence. All of that goes away. If you're so exhausted and mentally drained, you have no creative capacity. You don't even have time to think about like the future because you're constantly just trying to catch up on what you have in front of you. And there's more and more and more always coming in. You need to have enough staff to where your employees have just a little bit of capacity so they can get creative, they can have opportunities for innovation, and so that they can actually utilize mental health resources, time off, benefits that you give them, and not feel like they're coming back to a complete shit show. All right, y'all. So I've got some stats for us. Let's go into the money. Let's talk about the money. The money, 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 money. All right. Voluntary turnover due to burnout cost businesses $1 trillion per year. That is insane. Insane, you guys. $1 trillion. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm really not into like financial stuff, especially in like the United States or whatever. But I remember when I was in high school, I saw that we were some trillion number of dollars in debt. And so I just feel like when you have a preventable issue that's costing trillion dollars a year, why aren't we doing something about this? That was crazy to me. That one kind of blew my mind. Okay, so 15 to 20% of your annual payroll cost is due to turnover. That's crazy. Why would you not be trying to change your organization and find out why people are leaving and actually like do something about it? Because we'll talk about surveys a little bit later, but like you have the power to figure out why people are leaving. You can ask. And then you also have the power to do something about it. But what I find is that a lot of employers want to argue with survey results. Like, the point is not to argue with them. The point is to do something about the stuff that's on there. It's not to find or combat all of the reasons why you do things the way you do. It's just, we'll talk about that later. But because turnover impacts so many different areas, it's honestly costing you probably more than that. All right, next is you can increase your annual revenue by 4 times if you have a good company culture. I'm sure you're like, 4 times? Like, that's crazy. That's a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. And you know why you can do that? Here's why. Number 1 is clients like to see the same faces. They like to be in relationship with the people they do business with. So if you have employees who are constantly turning over, and your clients don't know who the hell they're dealing with, and you're getting these candidates who sometimes they're a hit, sometimes they're a miss, it's real inconsistent. And so the clients that you have are going to start to look elsewhere because they're like, man, I just want consistency. I just want to know that this is going to, go smoothly. I don't want to keep dealing with new people. I don't want to keep repeating myself and telling, backstories all over again. I just want somebody who's going to know who I am and who's going to deal with whatever issue I have and like take care of it. So the more you're able to retain your employees, the more you'll be able to retain your clients, okay? The other thing is that if you retain your employees, you retain job knowledge. So the more your employees are tenured at your company, the better they get at coming up with better processes, the faster they are at doing things. Because if you have a new employee, they're obviously going to be slower than someone that's been there for 6 years. They discover better ways to do things. They don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time they do a new task. They're able to make better decisions because they have history. They know, oh, this client's likes this thing done a certain way, and so they're able to do that, and it works out better for your business because you don't have people who are trying to like stumble and figure things out. The faster your employees are able to work, the more productive they're able to be, the better your bottom line ends up being. And then the other way that this increases your revenue is through recruiting costs. You have the recruiter itself, whether it's an internal or external recruiter, if you're posting to job boards, like all of that is costing you money. And then the time and effort into like interviewing employees, especially if you're doing multiple interviews, like all of that's costing you people's time. And then you have onboarding costs, and then you have training costs. So all of those are like hard costs of recruiting. But if you are able to retain people and you have a good company culture and your employees like, hey, bestie, I really love where I work. You should come work here too because it's a great organization. Not only did you just save on all of your recruiting costs, but you now have employees who are probably going to find right fits for you. So you don't even have to spend as much time like making sure that they're a good fit because your employee just really did the work for you. Of course, there might be a bad egg here and there, but if you really have a good company culture, your employees probably aren't going to try to bring in a crappy employee. Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why it's important to develop your company culture, but if 4 times your annual revenue doesn't get you to say, all right, I'm sold, I don't know, something's wrong and you might be a lost cause. Okay. 33% of turnover costs are hard costs, things like recruiting, onboarding, training, etc. The remaining 67% of cost is soft costs, so human errors, knowledge loss, low morale, cultural effects, and referral loss. So we kind of talked a little bit about this, but things like recruiting, onboarding, and training, those are measurable, right? We can put a dollar amount to those parts of turnover. What we can't quantify are the soft costs, the knowledge, the human errors, the effects on your company culture. Because they're unquantifiable, you need to make sure that you are putting so much energy into trying to retain employees. If it was like 5 to 10% of your turnover costs, I would say, okay, like, not that big of a deal. But when you can't quantify how much it's actually costing you, losing a key player is way bigger of a deal than we realized. It's way bigger than just they did a good job while they were here, gonna miss them. The person who comes in after them is guaranteed to have errors. They're guaranteed to get things wrong. They have to learn. The person who left probably had to learn for a while too. But that's why it's so important not to like lose people who have gone through the process of like getting the experience and the knowledge of your business. And so when you have a new employee that comes in and they do have a bunch of errors, that means you've got pissed off clients, you've got a pissed off vendors maybe, like you just have all of these things that are impacted because of small, understandable most of the time errors, but it's like people don't have time for that. And so if you were to retain the person who has all this knowledge and you bring someone in to help alleviate their burnout symptoms and the cause of their burnout, you're going to have the opportunity for that person to transfer knowledge. So instead of a new employee coming in and being like, oh, let me learn this all on my own, if you have that person still there, it's a transfer of knowledge. And then that person who has been there longer is able to be freed up for some of those more higher level tasks, taking on bigger and better projects, especially if it's split between 2 people, you can take on more. So it's like your capacity as an organization becomes bigger because you have more resources. All right, so this next one is like highly debated. Cost of turnover is 1.5 to 2 times employee salary. If your employee has been there for a long time and they are like a C-suite executive, VP, something like that, it's probably going to cost you more than that, but it does depend. And I'm going on the conservative side of this argument so that people don't feel like this is absolutely ridiculous and not true. So let's say that we do 2 times employee salary, and you've got a person who's making 100 grand a year. You could hire someone in at 70 grand and again have that knowledge transfer, being able to give them all of that information, and then being able to have that freed up capacity. Your person who's been there longer is able to find out ways how to speed up processes, how to do things better. They're starting to innovate, so they're saving you that way. Instead of it costing you 200 grand in turnover costs plus whatever the salary is of the new person that you have to find. And to be honest with you, with the way inflation is working, people are asking for higher and higher dollar amounts. So you might have someone who was accepting 100K for this position, but the person that you really need to replace them, they want 120. So consider that too. But instead of spending all of that turnover cost and then finding someone else, time, just time in general that you don't have to find a replacement, you now have this person who is giving your company revenue because you're able to take on more projects. You're able to do things faster. You're able to like produce better and better product because this one person isn't so bogged down. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Are you guys with me? Like, are we on the same page here? I know I've been like saying a lot so far. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. I would love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on all of this stuff. I would love to be challenged on this. If you feel like you have other information that kind of combats this, I would really love to hear that as well, just to get a better understanding. Okay, so the last thing here on like the financial side of things, what burnout is costing you, turnover is not the only cost associated with burnout. You also have things that are going to cost you while people are still employed. So you have the cost of absenteeism, lower engagement, and a decrease in productivity. So if you have employees who are stressed to the max, they're at their mental capacity, they are not going to produce as much as they typically would if they had more mental capacity and physical. So with all of this information, we know now that burnout is a systemic problem. It is an issue with your organization, systems, processes, procedures. The number one predictor of employees experiencing burnout is a toxic workplace. The McKinsey Health Institute did a study in 15 different countries, and they were really trying to assess burnout and the real root cause of it, because they kind of, like me, were like, something isn't right here. You know, it's not just that people need to do more for their mental health. There's a bigger, more widespread issue. And toxic workplace was the number one predictor of producing burnout symptoms. So to paint a picture, let's talk about like what defines a toxic workplace, just like we did with burnout, so that we're all on the same page. Toxic workplaces have a lot of gossiping. There's negative cliques that are happening. There's a lot of micromanagement, triangulating, like pinning this person against that person and kind of politicking, using everybody against each other to get what you want. Not taking accountability. And this one can be really tricky. One thing I experienced in my previous workplace was like people would pretend take accountability. So they would say like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, like I didn't get this done, or oh yeah, my bad, I should have done that. But then like nothing ever happened. So like let's say that they had a project that was supposed to be due on a Monday, and then like Monday comes and you're like, hey, where's your project? And then they would be like, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't get to that. I'll get it done by the end of the day. And then like the end of the day would come and it never came. Like the project still wasn't turned in. And then you would get to the next Monday and you still hadn't seen the project. And it's like, all right, like what is the point of taking accountability if you're not going to like have action that happens after you say the words, I'm taking accountability? It's just a lot of things in toxic workplaces are very manipulative, and it's kind of like smoke and mirrors. So it will seem one way, but then like after you pull the blinders off, you see like, oh, this was all just like for show, but nothing's actually really happening here. So even if your workplace like pretends that they're taking accountability or pretends that they're trustworthy or pretends that they have a good culture, like be very observant about the actual actions, not just the words that are coming out of their mouth, you know? Another toxic workplace trait is sabotaging. So, sabotaging other people, sabotaging the business. Self sabotage, I think, is something that a lot of people struggle with in general, especially if you have gone through a lot of hard times in your life. Self sabotaging can be a protection mechanism. It's something that a lot of people do because they are comfortable where they are. And so, when they start a new diet, for example, they sabotage themselves because they're like, there's certain fears that they have within them that if they get the result that they actually want, things have to change. They might lose some people. They might have some people saying things about them that they don't really want to say. There's a lot of reasons why we self-sabotage, but if you do it in your personal life, you're likely going to do it in your professional life. And so if you see self-sabotaging behaviors, if the owner of your company or like really high-level leaders are self-sabotagers, that is a huge red flag to look out for because they will do the same thing to the business, and that is a problem. Gaslighting is another huge red flag, toxic workplace behavior. This is something that sounds like if you were to go to your manager and say, hey, you know, so-and-so said this to me. I really didn't appreciate it. Can you please address it with them so that that doesn't happen again? And if they say something back to you that sounds like, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it that way, or, oh, let's just let it go. And if they do it again, let me know. I'm coming to you saying that this person was insulting me or this person made me feel unsafe, uncomfortable here, and you want to tell me that they didn't mean it? No. You shouldn't have to like feel bad about your feelings. Your manager, your leadership teams should be making you feel safe at work. And so if you're coming to them with complaints, they should be validating you and helping you through that situation, taking accountability for it, and making sure that everyone in the work environment feels comfortable, not trying to just sweep it under the rug. All right, so a lot of these things can manifest because it's not that the leader is inherently bad. Like, I don't think people want to create toxic workplaces. But what happens is there's certain demands when you get to a point where you have so much on your plate or you are so stressed out, we have negative qualities that can come out of us. And over time, if you don't check those, it just builds a culture of toxicity. And if everybody's feeding on each other's toxic traits, then it becomes who your business is. And so it's not that you are a bad person. It's just that you may need some personal development or coaching outside of the workplace to address these habits and behaviors that you have as just a human that you're now taking into the workplace with you. Okay, so I saw this other quote that was really interesting to me. This was from the Niagara Institute. And it says, individual skills cannot compensate for unsupportive workplace factors. When it comes to the effect of individual skills, Leaders should be particularly cautious not to misinterpret favorable outcomes, for example, a buffered impact of toxic behaviors across more adaptable employees, as absence of underlying workplace issues that should be addressed. Okay, I'm going to pause there because I want to explain what this is saying. That was a lot of words. Essentially, it's saying that you cannot punish employees who do not adapt well to negative environments for another employee who is more adaptable's ability to adapt to the environment. So if you have a negative workplace and you've got employee A who is just like that, doesn't let anything get them down. They go after whatever. They will do whatever you ask them to do. They just kind of go with the flow. They don't have like any struggles with just adapting to change or issues that come up. But then you have employee B who is the one who's like, hey, I noticed that this happened during the company meeting and that seemed a little like inappropriate to me. If person B is calling out certain behaviors, you can't like punish them because other employees are just like allowing it to slip under the rug, or they're just allowing it to happen and they are able to still function in that environment. There are certain people who are going to react a certain way to negative situations. And then there's other people who are going to react differently. The point is, if there are toxic workplace characteristics present in your work environment, they need to be fixed. They need to be addressed. It doesn't matter how adaptable your employees are. Going back to that rude comment, like it's rude to these, it's inconsiderate to the employee B who's like trying to call it out and be like, hey, this needs to be fixed. But you're like, so-and-so doesn't seem to care. But then let me get you on part 2 of this quote, because employee A, who doesn't really say thing and lets it slide and is just really adapting to your environment, they are actually less likely to tolerate these environments. So in the same survey, employees with high adaptability were 60% more likely to report their intent to leave their organization if they experienced high levels of toxic behavior. So even if they are like totally not showing any issue with your environment, it doesn't mean that they aren't noticing it. Because for me, like I was very adaptable to the environment that I was in, and I didn't necessarily excuse things, but I tried to work on them behind the scenes with the people directly. If I saw certain issues, I would try to address them with the person and, try and work on things to make them better. But in general, I was very adapted to my workplace, and you couldn't really tell that there was an issue. But over time, that grace that I gave to people, it dwindled. And I was like, all right, I'm out. So you have people who may not be saying anything, but better believe they are paying attention. They're smart people. All right, y'all, let's bring this home. So just to kind of wrap up the toxic workplace thing, turning around a toxic workplace is challenging. It's an in-depth process, and it's really important to have an unbiased party or an outside coach or somebody who can help you, hold you accountable, keep you consistent in making the changes. I know that like a lot of people, especially when they're like the business owner or they have somehow contributed to this work environment, they don't want to like ask for help because they're embarrassed to admit that they're failing, but you don't know all the problems, and you probably don't have the right perception of what is going on. So until you have someone who looks at it from the outside, the whole situation, you're really not going to be able to see the change that you want to see as deeply as you want to see it. So one of the ways to combat the issue of your perception is to do employee surveys. Like, if you think that you know everything that's going on, you really need to like check your mindset, Because even if you are the best manager in the world, there's probably still areas where you could improve, or you probably have blind spots somewhere, somehow. If you're not spending hours with your employee a week, there is something that you're likely missing. And so there was another study that was featured in this Niagara Institute article that I had shared earlier, but it was talking about how certain organizations felt like they were very empathetic to their employees, and they did a survey between the managers and the employees themselves, and 92% of the managers said that they were empathetic. 50% of the employees said that they felt like their workplace was empathetic. That's almost half, you guys. That's almost half of the people who did not agree with their managers. Your perception is not everything, okay? It's not everything. So the best way to get input from your people are to take surveys. Actually ask them questions. Ask them what you want to know. You want to do satisfaction surveys. You want to do exit surveys. Exit surveys are so undervalued. If you have the opportunity to meet with or ask the employees who are leaving your company why, it's literally the keys to the castle. Stop letting your ego get in the way of you actually changing your business for the better and transforming your business's culture. So you got to let that ego go. Once you get the data of where people are at right now, you can do so much good with that. If you have employees who are willing to provide you with their perspective of what's wrong and where you can improve, you need to do something with that. The worst thing you can do is ask people for feedback and then try to combat them with why it is the way it is. If you weren't planning on changing things, or you didn't want to do something about your employee survey answers, why even make them do it? Because now you're just putting more on their plate to sit there and argue with them? They don't want to hear that. If you do employee surveys with employees, please do it with the actual intention and the support to actually take action on the surveys, on the results. So once you have the data, you're able to formulate a plan, you've got the information, and now you can do something with it. But again, I would hire somebody, because if you were able to get the results already and you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, why haven't you done it yet? You got yourself in this situation, so it's going to be really hard for you to get yourself out of it without somebody holding you accountable, giving you a different perspective, keeping you consistent. You haven't done this on your own yet because, number one, you don't have the right information. There's certain pieces of information that you haven't learned yet that you need to know and believe before you will actually make a change systemically within your organization. And that's not a dig. We all have room to grow all the time. So just know that if you are at that point where your organization has, toxic characteristics, it just means that you need to learn some more information that you don't know yet. Fill in those gaps. And it's really helpful to have somebody from the outside filling those gaps in alongside you to really guide you and help you through that process. The other thing is, you don't have accountability. If you say that, the leadership team will hold each other accountable. Y'all are the same leadership team that hasn't been holding each other accountable this whole time. So what makes you think that you are going to be able to do it now? It goes back to that false accountability. You might say, we're going to do this, guys. Oh, hey, we really need to get that done. But if you don't have someone who's really going to call you out and be like, hey, you need to fix this. You're not doing this. You're not showing up in the way that you said you were going to. You're not owning your part of the problem. You're probably not going to succeed. And then you also don't have the consistency. So the hardest part about changing in general is consistency. It's really hard to stay consistent when you've been a certain way for however long. The things that add up to a toxic workplace is those habits that we have, especially when you're stressed out. If you have a lot on your plate, it's much easier to go back to your regularly scheduled programming, your regular way of doing things, than it is to create new habits and find a new way to do things. That takes more brain power. You don't feel like it. But guess who will feel like it? A coach, somebody who's actually there for that. It's their job. So you need to have somebody who's going to teach you information, who's going to hold you accountable, and who's going to keep you consistently moving forward. All right, so I want to close this out. Coming back to that original post, let me bring it up. The whole reason we went down this rabbit hole is because leaders have more impact on your mental health than your therapist or your doctor. And having a good boss can literally change your life. So now that we know all of the things that really contribute to a burnout culture, a toxic work environment, we know what it's costing us. We need to know, all right, what does it look like when it's good? What does a good leader look like? What are the things that they do so that we can evaluate, are there managers in our organization that are causing their employees to burn out? If this is not like an organization-wide thing, maybe it's just a particular department, what are the things that that manager is doing or not doing that they could be doing in order to be a more positive work environment and changing people's lives for the better? So I got a list from the Center of Creative Leadership that I would like to share with you. These are 12 essential leadership qualities. Number 1 is self-awareness. So back again to that accountability, just knowing yourself, knowing your shortcomings and fixing them. Number 2 is respect. 3 is compassion. 4 is vision. 5 is communication. 6 is learning agility. 7 is collaboration. 8 is influence and using your influence for good. 9 is integrity. And integrity and influence really need to go like hand in hand. And then 10 is courage. 11 is gratitude. And 12 is resilience. You guys, every single one of these can be learned. These are qualities that can be coached, they can be trained on, they can be practiced. Good leadership is not something you're born with. It is something that you practice and you learn and you constantly adapt. It's not a final destination point. It's something you're constantly striving for to be a better leader. And that's probably why you're here today. Whoever has made it this far, round of applause for you. Seriously, congratulations for making it to the end of this episode, because I know that you're a good leader. You would not be here if you weren't one. You want better for your employees. You have a growth mindset, and that is so key to being a good leader. So if you want your people to be good, if you want to be great, if you want to be that leader who improves the mental health of your employees, invest in training, invest in coaching, invest in learning and growing yourself as a person, as a human individual. It's not just about who you are at work. It's who you are in life in general that makes you a good leader or a bad manager. Take care of yourself. Set yourself up for so much success that it has no choice but to just pour over on to the people who are influenced by you. So I'll leave you with that. I really thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you so, so, so much. It means the world to me that you are supportive of my mission and my vision, and that you are willing to learn and hear about this, what I would call a pandemic of sorts. If this is something that is plaguing the workplace in the entire world, burnout, I commend you for being here to even just take in the information and learn about how it's impacting our employees and how it's impacting the people within your organization. This one was from my soul. I appreciate so much you sharing this space with me. If you are looking for support, or you are looking for that coach to come in and help your workplace, come in and help you individually, I work one-on-one with people, or I also work with teams of leaders. Please let me know if I can be of any assistance. My contact information is all down below in the description. I love you. Thank you again for the 10th time. And until next time, take care.